In exercise 206, you're going to be converting rates. Now, for some of you, you're going to find this very easy because you've been thinking about converting rates from a very early exercise in this chapter where we were aware that we might be converting. And so every time previously, it may not have come under the instruction to convert, but you knew that the process you were following was converting the rate, then you've been mindful of this process. And now when we get to this exercise, it will almost seem familiar that you've done this before. So it says there, to convert a rate, example, kilometres per hour to metres per second, convert one part of the rate at a time. So, yep, that makes sense. We're going to convert from kilometres to metres. We're going to convert from hours to seconds. You're also going to see some other types of rates throughout this exercise. And when we do that, a lot of the times we will, I wouldn't say this is going to be all the time, but a lot of the times you're going to see we're going to convert our work to a fraction so that we can use our algebra, excuse me, which is what you've been doing in some of the other exercises. So we know that if we've got a fraction, then we can cross multiply, we can solve our equation, we can find values. With our rate written in our two-dot format, we're fairly restricted mathematically with what we can do. Well, we know the only things that we can do is multiply or divide the two quantities or convert a quantity from one unit to a different unit. So it's fairly obvious, I think, what we need to highlight. We're given Betty's speed was 80.5 kilometres an hour, and we need to convert it into metres per second. I think this way of setting out your answer identifies where we're going to start and where we're going to finish. We can see that we need to convert kilometres into metres and hours into seconds. So that's going to involve quite a bit of work. Always start with converting one unit only, and because eventually we've got to get this to 1, I think converting the second part of the rate should be left and done in the latter part of the solution. So we'll work on converting our kilometres. Convert these first, and then we'll think about converting the hours. So I think most people know to convert kilometres to metres, it's one simple step of there are 1,000 metres in a kilometre, so 80 kilometres can be just written as 80,000 metres. Now, I haven't changed anything about the size of this rate at the moment. I've changed the units, but these two things measure exactly the same distance. 80 kilometres is exactly the same distance as 80,000 metres. Now, I'm done with converting the unit. I've got the distance in the correct unit. I now work on the hours. And my first step is similar in that I would prefer to write 1 hour as 60 minutes. Now, nothing has changed in size. 1 hour is exactly the same size as 60 minutes. Nothing has changed in terms of the size. What has changed are the units from hours to minutes. We still keep our 80,000 metres. I will now convert from 60 minutes down to 1 minute. And to do that, we know once we start converting sizes, well, then we're dividing or multiplying. And if we divide and change the size on one side, we must do it on the other. So I've now got 80,000 divided by 60. I'm just going to move that because I'm running out of space. So if you set yourself up like this, give yourself a very generous amount of space. I will continue with this up here, which was 80,000 over 60 per 1 minute. And I'm going to write that over 60. Instead of 1 minute, I'm going to call it 60 seconds. I'm not changing the size, I'm changing the unit. And that's why it's important to keep track of what unit you're in. Don't leave the unit off. Put the units in. Doesn't take very much to write those 3 letters or those 3 letters. However, now I am going to change the size. I want to divide by 60 again to get it down to 1 second. If I'm dividing that side by 60, I divide this side by 60 as well. And the shortcut to do that is to keep my 80,000 and do 60 times 60. That is the same as dividing actually by a second lot of 60. You can go straight to your calculator then, set it up with our fraction. So I'll turn it on. Set it up with our fraction. We've got 80,000. And in the bottom, we can write this 60 times 60, just like that. And our answer would be that, which you might choose to convert to a decimal, which is, as you can see, it is 22.2 repeating minutes per second. Now, moving on to these examples, to convert 125 litres per hour to litres per day, you can see that I've set it up, given myself a generous amount of space, which I probably won't need this time because you can see that I'm really only converting one of the units. Litres stay as litres, so no change needs to be made to the unit there. I do need, though, to convert hours to days. So that's understood to be 1 hour. What we do know is that there are 24 hours in a day. I'm clearly changing the size and I'm needing to multiply by 24. So over on this side, I'll need to multiply by 24. Of course, if you use that many litres in 1 hour over 24, you're going to use 24 times more. So multiply by 24. And actually, that's all we need to do. Let's go to the calculator. Whoops, move that across. And we simply want 125 multiplied by 24, which is 3,000. In 24 hours, which we could write as 3,000 litres per day. In the second example, we're converting 24 cents per minute to dollars per hour. I have left a considerable amount of space again because this time you can see you do need to convert both units. We're converting from cents to dollars, we're converting the units, we're converting the minutes to hours. Now, always in this case, consider converting your first unit, your first quantity into the appropriate unit first, because we've always got to get this one down to 1, and that can be more messy. So 24 cents, we simply know 24 cents can be written exactly that way. What have I done from that line to that line? I've converted the unit. I haven't changed the size of anything. Everyone knows 24 cents can just be simply written this way using dollars. Now, I need to work through from a minute to an hour. So, how do I go from 1 minute to an hour? I know there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. How do I make this conversion? I am multiplying by 60. If I multiply by 60, I'm changing the size of the quantity. So I need to change the size of the quantity in a similar way here. So I'm going to do that multiplication. We know that 60 minutes is 1 hour. Let's go to the calculator. This time we want 0.24 cents times 60, and that is equal to $14.40. So we've got $14.40 40 per hour. C. You'll have possibly done similar questions to this. 80 kilometres per hour to metres per second. We've got to change kilometres to metres, hours to seconds. So we're converting both quantities, the units for both quantities. Let's start with the first quantity and get it into its appropriate units. So again, 80 kilometres becomes 80,000 metres. Actually, I think this is the one we did. So this is the disadvantage of not having you there to say to me, oh, miss, you've lost. You lost a 0.5. Back in here, you were probably wanting to say, oh, you've made a mistake, miss. So now I've realised that, yeah, I better go back here, fix this up. It wasn't 80 kilometres an hour, it was 80.5, which meant my working, I've just corrected it now. I originally had 80 kilometres an hour there, incorrect. I've now corrected it, putting the 5 in. So hopefully, no, I'm not sure what you would have done there. Hopefully you've just gone, oh, she's made a mistake. She's lost the 5. And you might have worked it through correctly with putting the 5 in all the way. What we do know is the answer to 80,000 sitting there is the 22.2. So I'm going to cheat a bit and just go through and say, I know my answer is going to be 22.2 for this. And it's really basically the same working as you can see there above, which you can now see when you put in the correct values. You get getting 22.361 repeating. And so I will change this now. And got the correct answer there. I'll leave you to actually fill in the steps from there to there, and knowing that it's very similar to the example above, then go on and fill out what you've reinforced, some things you've reinforced by doing these examples, and you'll be right to do 206.